All right, so we're going to go back through the examples from their questions, from the chapter review. So number 7 wanted you to solve for A. This is 2 tangents. So what's true about 2 tangents that come from the same point on the outside of the circle? They equal each other. So in this case, 9a squared minus 30 would equal 3a. As soon as you see the a squared and the a little alarm needs to go off in your head that says this has got to be factored. So you want to get everything to one side. I would move the 3a over with the 9a squared, so I always keep the a squared or the squared term positive. I can do it the other way around, but it's certainly easier to keep the a squared positive. And put it in decreasing degree order, meaning highest exponent, which would be squared exponent, to the smallest, which is none. And then I get to this point. So the first thing you want to look at when you're factoring is, can I take something out? Is there something that all 3 of those terms are divisible by? 3. So by taking out, I put it on the front, and then I'm going to divide each of these terms by 3. So this would be 3a squared minus a minus 10. And then I've got to factor the trinomial. So this first position is the factors of 3a squared. What 2 terms, when multiplied together, give you 3a squared? 3a and a, good. And it doesn't matter if I put the 3a here or here, as long as one of them is in each spot. Now typically if that just said a squared minus a minus 10, then I'd be finding the factors, because this is just a and a. I'd just be looking at the last number and the middle number, finding the factors of negative 10 that sum to negative 1, which this would be prime. It's just a bad example, but that's what I would do if there's nothing on the front. When you're dealing with something like the one we're looking at now, when there's a number on the front here, then I have to take in consideration the outer 2 and the inner 2 terms have to sum to this middle term. So in the last position, I'm putting the factors of negative 10, and this is trial and error. I'm going to see which one works. So what are the factors of negative 10? What 2 numbers multiply together?
Negative 5 and 2.
I could do negative 5 and 2. I could do 5 and negative 2, right? I could do 1 and negative 10, and I can do negative 10 and 1. You with me? So if I did that, so I did 5 and 2, and I multiply the outer 2, I get 6a, multiply the inner 2, I get negative 5a, and then add them, and I have a positive 1a. Is that this term? No, it's not positive. I need it to be negative. So if I just simply switch the signs on these two, making this positive, and this negative, now I get negative 6a plus 5a, which is negative a. So I know that's the combination that works. So this is still equal to 0. Multiply the outer 2 and then the inner 2. So the only time I need to do that is if there's a term other than 1 in front of the x squared, or the a squared in this case. If there's no term there, then I'm just looking for the factors of the last that sum to the middle. Alexis. Don't take out the 3? Absolutely, just bigger numbers. But it still works. When you go to solve it, it will simplify to be the same numbers. Good question. So if we didn't take out the 3, is it going to be wrong? No, it'll still be right. It will just be bigger numbers. Okay, so now I'm here.
Is the bigger, out of the 2 factors, is the bigger number always positive?
No. Bigger number's going to match the middle term. Well, actually, it depends, because this time you're doing a product. So it's the bigger product, really, that you need to be negative, because I need it to be this term here. All right, so now if I want to solve this, I can divide both sides by 3. What's going to happen when I divide 0 by 3? It's 0. And then if either one of those parentheses is 0, the whole thing will cancel out, which is why I can split this and say if the left side equals 0, my answer is going to be 0. If the right side equals 0, my answer is going to be 0, which is why I get 2 answers. So the right side, add the 2, and I get a equals 2. The left side, 3a would equal negative 5, and a would equal negative 5/3. But we're dealing with side lengths here, right? Which tells you what? Has to be positive. I rule out the negative 5/3 and I keep the positive 2. Questions on that?
You saw how you split it in the middle? If you because if you are confused at the bottom piece, ruling out the one, could you just solve it as a whole equation?
You can't because they're two separate parts. So the only other way to do it would be back to distributing, and then you can't. You'd have to factor it and then set each factor equal to 0. Honda.
Well, for the when I factored for the first time, I got 3a squared minus a minus 10 equals 0. I didn't have it in the parentheses with 3 on the outside.
So you went straight from the top, the 9a squared? It should have been 9a squared if you didn't take out the...
Well, yeah, I put 9, and then I divided the 9a squared and minus 3 minus 30 by 3.
Okay.
And then I still got the same answer.
Yeah, the reason is because if you divide both sides by 3, it cancels out. So as long as whatever's on the other side of the equal sign is 0, then you can divide it and lose it. It's the same thing. Does that make sense? Yeah. If it wasn't 0 on the other side, then you'd be changing the value of your equation, which would make it wrong. But because it's 0, it goes away. All right, this is 9. So 9 is a tangent segment hitting a radius. What happens when the tangent hits the radius? It's perpendicular, so this is a right triangle. This is a little right angle, and I can use the Pythagorean theorem that would say that 9 squared plus r squared would equal this whole side here is r plus 3. Then there was a question just like this on your quiz, which I'll get back to in just a minute. So I have to expand and FOIL that. That is not r squared plus 9. It's not the way it works. It is r plus 3 times r plus 3. This is 81 plus r squared. So 81 plus r squared would equal r squared plus 3r plus 3r plus 9. 81 plus r squared equals r squared plus 6r plus 9. Again, goal is to get all the terms to be on the same side. So if I subtract the r squareds here, I end up with 81 equals 6r plus 9. And I have eliminated the squared portion of this, so it's no longer quadratic. This is not a factoring question. This is just a, let me go there, you go there. This is just simply solving for r. So I subtract the 9. 72 equals 6r, divide by 6, and r equals 12. Questions on that one? Okay, then we got to angles. So this is the section in which you're doing angles. This is the floating angle. You had the exterior angle. So exterior angle is big minus little divided by 2. This is my floating angle. So the floating angle is the arc, its angle intercepts, which is 152, plus the arc, its vertical angle intercepts, which is 60, divided by 2. So I get 212 divided by 2, which is 106. So that floating angle, you're basically finding the average. You're adding them and dividing by 2.
I got 106 for
Oh. Man, this is like the 3rd typo in this book. Sorry.
Wait, it's not 106?
It is 106. The book says 116.
I got really confused when you said that answer.
Maybe we've all learned to add and divide wrong. 21 is your exterior angle. This is big minus little divided by 2. So the big arc is 96. The little arc is x divided by 2 equals the angle. This time my unknown is one of the arcs. So one of those 3 things is going to be unknown. So I want to solve this equation. I'm just going to multiply by 2. 96 minus x equals 80. negative x equals negative 16, and x equals 16. Questions on that one? Okay. And then the segments in a circle. So you had two chords where the product along each one was equal to each other. Two secants where whole times external equals whole times external. And this one, a tangent and a secant. So the tangent squared equals the whole times the external. So all the information in that word problem is actually written on the picture, right? Local Park has a circular ice skating rink. You're standing at point A, about 12 feet from the edge of the rink. The distance from you to the point of tangency on the rink is about 20 feet. Estimate the radius of the rink. So the tangent, which is 20 squared, equals the whole side here, which is r plus 12. Or 2r plus 12. That's the whole. Times the external, which is 12. So 20 squared is 400. Distribute this. 24r plus 24. Subtract the 24. 376 equals 24r. Oh, 12 times 12. I did 12 times 2. Thank you. This is 144 minus 144. So now it's 6, 5, 256 equals 24r. Divide by 24. And it doesn't go in evenly, so I'm going to reduce it, right? Because 24 doesn't go in evenly into 256. So I can either start to reduce it, right? I know 2 is divisible 1 to 8 over 12. I can go again. 64 over 6. And then divide that. 64 divided by 6 is 10 and 4/6, which is 10 and 2/3. Because the whole, and when you set up the whole times external part, it's the whole secant segment, so it's the entire thing. You have to go from the r all the way to the 12. Any other questions on the review? Evan? To find the r the other way? Sure, you end up with a square root. That's not a whole number, but yeah, you could do it that way. You could have the r going up and down. Typically on a secant, you're not going to have that case, so just be careful. Typically, the secant's not going to run directly through the diameter, but that's definitely an option with that one. Before we get into Kahoot, okay? So those of you that need extra factoring practice, there's this website, and I'll post a link to one quiz, but you can make multiple quizzes on your own, so this is why I'm showing you this. It's called thatquiz.org. There's actually an app, and there's a web interface. So when you go there, it looks like this. And if you click on algebra, God bless you. And on the left-hand side, you'll see factors. If you go to factors, the lower level ones is just factoring out the greatest common factor, but you can adjust the level and the number and all that stuff. So if you start at, what was it, Chris, 6? I think it was 6, right? Yeah, if you start at 6, it's going to give you polynomials in which you can factor them, so the stuff that you might need practice with. So if I was trying to factor x squared plus 5x plus 4, what would be my answer?
X plus 1.
X. So I can actually put, let's see if it'll let me type it in it. No. I would type in there x plus 4, x plus 1 in either order, because it gives it to you in either order, okay? And then you click OK, and it will tell you if it's right or wrong, and it will give you feedback if it's wrong. So this is a great tool to help you with your extra practice, okay, because it's auto-graded. If you continue to go up those levels, like if I go up to 7, the numbers just get a little bit bigger. 8 eventually gets me the ones that have the numbers in the front, okay? So if you need the extra practice, I'll post like a link for one quiz, but you can generate multiple quizzes on your own by doing that, okay? I just put that in the video, so if you need instructions to do that later, they're there, okay? But the web URL is thatquiz.org, and it's also an app now. I don't know how good the app is because it's brand new, but, well, it's new to me at least. But it's there if you need it, okay?